sit in it. See how you're gonna have to.
Actually, not too bad.
Good morning. It is another day of working in the shop. Today we are going to be working on the heavy wrecker. I've got Jamie here to help me for a second, but I bet you she's leaving.
Yeah, I got stuff to do.
Yeah. And look who's back from mining. It's Ed.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's a good day today. No wind, no clouds. Gonna get probably 85.
Yeah?
We'll get some work done today.
All right, we have been working on the wrecker for about 6 months. We've got it this far along. I'm super excited to get it finished to do recoveries. Also, we've got the Tow Truck Olympics, so watch for that in the future. So there's a new development that I'm really excited about. Harbor Freight reached out to us, hey Peanut, and said that they have some booth space at SEMA and that they would like us to take the wrecker down there and park it there near the registration booth. Super excited about that. But that means we've got to get some lipstick on this pig and quick. So we're gonna be working on today. All right, I've made a mostly complete list right here of things that need to be done before we can take it to SEMA. We've got battery boxes to do. We gotta mount the toolboxes. That one's easy. Steering column. I'm thinking, let's finish the steering column. Let's do this. Number one, steering column. If you look around the shop, this is my help today.
It's the best help he's ever had.
And then these three pups, I don't know how much help they're gonna be. How much help are you gonna be today, huh? I think they're just gonna be in the way more than anything. So in the last video you saw where we mocked up the steering column and kind of put it in place. A few of you had some questions, some comments. Today we're gonna address some of those and I'm gonna show you kind of the system and why it goes the way it goes and why things get changed. So the assembly manual that was supposed to come with the heavy wrecker never showed up. So we have to guess where to put things. And I guessed to put this right here and I guessed wrong. So this is too high. I'm worried about getting fittings underneath here. This angle isn't too sharp for a steering column. It would be bad news for drive shaft, but this can handle it just fine. Somebody commented they thought my joints were out of phase, but they're not. They're perfectly in phase. I need to lower this. So that's one thing that needs to happen. The other thing that needs to happen is this column needs to get mounted in solid. So that's what we're gonna do. We're still waiting on the slider tracks for the chairs. We're still sitting on Mountain Dew boxes. There's been questions about foot space and steering wheel placement. Like all of that, I understand your concern. So we gotta get this mounted exactly where it goes because we can't have this flopping around with people looking at it. Where did that piece go? I knocked that big chunk of metal out. Did it fall through the floor? Anybody see where it went? Just put that in there just like that. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it in there just like that. Then we'll be able to fill that all with weld and it will all be good. So I don't have any formal training in fabrication. Everything is pretty much, I just look at something and see what I want and then I just make it. So there's probably better and there's definitely different ways to do what I'm doing, but I'm gonna show you how I do it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So there's two purposes to what I'm doing here. One, I'm holding the steering column in place, so I've got to make a clamping system on this. We'll put a little piece of EPDM rubber in there and clamp that down. But the second thing that I'm doing is I'm sealing this hole in the firewall. I'm trying to accomplish both of those things, and I'm doing it the only way that I know how, and that's just to imagine something and then put it there. All right, so I got these tabs welded on here, cradling the steering column in there nice and tight. And then we got this piece built right here. It goes on just like this. We're gonna be using some EPDM rubber in here, but for now, we're just gonna be using some of this cardboard because we're working on this. Tighten this up. So a lot of what we do, we put together and we take it apart, put it together and take it apart, and I don't always torque till the final assembly. Sometimes I don't know when the final assembly is, and we leave them loose and then take them out there and work with them, and we end up with situations like this. I can, oh crap. No, I lost a nut. I never tightened those up. The next thing is I've got to do basically this up underneath the dash to hold the other end of the column. So, because right now it can still wiggle side to side like this. So that's what we're gonna do next. I don't know exactly what to do to make it look good. I know how to hold it. Clamping it's not a problem, but making it look nice. Probably do all the clamping behind the dash so that it's really hard to take the steering column out if we ever need to. There was a lot of questions, a lot of comments about how I should leave an access panel here so that I can work on the back of the engine. The plan is to make the cab really easy to take off, and we're working on that, and it's looking like that's going to be the case. I'm happy with how that's going to come together. But there's just nothing to work on the back of the engine. Some of the things that were brought up were, how am I going to get to the coil packs? I can get to them quite easily. I'm touching all of them. I can easily get a wrench. The other questions, of course, we've addressed this before, but the spark plugs, you can see them right there. I can put an extension to this so the spark plugs aren't a problem. On the back of the engine, there's two sensors. There's the crank position sensor, and then there's an oil pressure. And while it's not like super easy, not as easy as the rest of it, very easy to get to, like much easier than if this was in a Suburban or a pickup truck or something like that. We talked about the access panel when we were like imagining the firewall, but once we put it up and realized that I can easily get my hand and tools back there, I can actually see, I can watch, I can see the heads of the bolts and everything. I decided that making an access in here just wasn't worth it. Somebody wanted me to make the firewall, not somebody, several people wanted me to make the firewall out of an old wheelbarrow, which would have just been much more difficult than what we did. It's a good idea. I can see it working in some applications, but not in this one. I get a lot of questions about why I don't wear gloves, and I just never have. I've never, like, even if it's like cold and I'm riding snowmobiles, I very seldom wear gloves. People talked about how I probably get nerve damage and stuff, but I feel like I've got pretty good dexterity and feel. I can work on engines and get behind things I can't see, and I can do like shadow monsters, shadow critters. What are they called? Hand shadow? Shadow, yeah. Shadow puppets, I can do those too, as well as shadow critters. Yeah, so I wouldn't really worry about my gloved hands. Not everybody's the same. I just grew up this way. I've been fabricating, working, welding. I started welding when I was 8 years old. No one was around when I started welding. I just turned the welder on and started going for it. It's been 45 years of getting lucky. Still got all my digits. I used to think I for sure was gonna lose one, but now I'm thinking I'm gonna keep all of them. So here's another problem with gloves. Gloves don't allow me the dexterity I need to put this right where it is. And I know people set these up with magnets and all kinds of things. There's stuff to do this, but ain't nobody got time for that. So this is gonna weld to the bottom of this. So maybe something like that. So now I've got to take the whole steering column out, take it all apart, and then I've got to bomb all of those brackets in. So this is good enough for now. We gotta fix it cosmetically, but strength-wise it's good. Clean up a little bit of boogers out of there and then clamp this part down, then we can go start working on the orbital valve. This was designed to be welded. It's a round to round and you're supposed to weld it on there, and I don't like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna machine this down. I'm gonna machine it down so that it fits this 3/4 inch double D like that. So we've got that to do, and then like I mentioned earlier, we've got to lower this bracket down at least an inch. So let's get after that. And I did air quote machine because you'll see why in a second. All right, that's gonna work. All right, we got this put together. I'm happy with how it turned out. Good and solid. So now we're just gonna work on the bracket that holds this orbital valve in place. So that means we've got to take it off and finish welding it up. A couple of you wanted me to bolt this on so that it wasn't in the way of anything, like if there was any future work to do, but it's so easy to work around it. There's lots of space. Also, if we need it out of the way, we'll just cut it off. It's just metal. We'll just cut it off and weld it back on, or address that problem if it ever arises. I don't think it will, so let's do that. Came right off of there. We'll just tack that up and weld it. All right, that is a way stronger bracket than it needs to be. I'm thinking we're just going to drop down to right there. That is where we want it. So now, if the rest of this fits, we have a winner. Let's come in here. Final assembly with all these pins. They'll all get red Loctite on them. They'll be inspected shortly after they fail. You don't want to mess around with steering. You want to do your steering. You want to pay attention when you're building steering and brake parts. Not going into gear on a trail, it's a pain. Engine not running, that's a pain. Not being able to stop or steer, that's a whole different level of pain. All right, I'm worried this is going to be one of those classic SEMA trucks where it's just not finished and it's got some like stopgap stuff done, and people will roast us on the internet about how this truck will never work unless we put drive shafts in it or something like that. And they'll be right, it won't work without drive shafts.
Hey, that drive shaft will be here tomorrow.
There's somebody that commented they did not like... Hello? There's somebody that commented that they did not like where this steering wheel ended up. And maybe it's because it went through the gauge cluster, I don't know, but it is in a fantastic position for somebody my size. I'm 6'2", 225 pounds, something like that. And I can't have these in my lap. I need them out here in front of me. Got a lot of questions on this. I said, since we're using the orbital valve and the full hydro, I said the steering wheel was gonna hunt. And what I mean by that is, since it's a fluid connection to the steering, it's not 100% this way, 100% back. It might be off 0.5% or 1% or 3%. There's gonna be some amount it's off. So the steering wheel is gonna be constantly hunting. So straight ahead is always gonna be a different position on the wheel. But you can see, since it's got the 4 spokes, as it hunts, it's less irritating. Your typical steering wheels will have like 3, but they won't be evenly spaced so that you can find the center really good. No vehicle with full hydraulic steering like this has that. You won't ever be able to center it off from the steering wheel. Anyway, that's why I chose a 4-spoke wheel. Somebody said this was a very dainty European wheel, and if I was a real man, I would have got a real American steering wheel with chain and barbed wire. But I'm feeling pretty good about this wheel. I think it matches this truck good. In the last video, people, what they thought they saw was me using a circular saw, a wood circular saw, with some metal blade cutting metal. And that's what it looks like, but that's not what I was using. What I was using is this thing. I don't even know. It's just a circular metal cutting saw. Comes with a metal blade. It's specifically made for cutting metal. And since we've got this saw, I don't think we broke the plasma cutter out.
It's very loud and obnoxious.
Oh, it is horribly loud. If you don't like wearing hearing protection, this saw will force it or it will ruin you. And this clears everybody out of the shop. I'm like, I'm about to cut metal. And the entire shop, including the dogs, they're gone. Okay, let's see this work. You want to watch that while I spin the wheel? It works.
It's got steering now.
Great. Yeah.
So here's a quick way to doing the math on this if you don't understand the multiplication of this. And without going into too many details, you've got 1,000 pounds of tension on this rope. There's also 1,000 on this one. There's also 1,000 on this one. And there's also 1,000 on this one. So that means you multiply it by the times of ropes, by how many ropes, that tells you how much pull it is. Now we've got some different angles and we're not gonna factor in the angles, but roughly, if this has got 1,000 pounds of tension on it, then that means we've got 4,000 pounds of pull on this. That's a 12,000 pound winch. With our losses, we're at 3 times. That's, you know, a pretty big number. It'll lift the front tires off the ground on this truck. In the towing industry, they give you all kinds of math to pass tests, but when you get out in the field, if it won't pull it, then put a snatch block on it. And then if it drags you, put some weight on you. If that stops it, put another snatch block on it. You don't sit down and do all that math. It doesn't make any sense. It either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, make it work. So let me show you what's not working here. So the rope angle, when this is up vertical, is coming across there. So I'm gonna trim this in here. We're gonna ruin our little Rango face by trimming this down like this. It's gonna look more like a praying mantis now. Claw hammer wins again. So the way these are going to work, for those of you that care, there's going to be a wheel lift apparatus I want to build here. Don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. These will go to a block and tackle down there and back up to here, so they'll get double their lifting power. Then there'll be a wheel grid for things to set in that need to be done that way. I don't know. It's going to be kind of heavy and awkward to put in and take out, so maybe we'll build it and we'll use it and then we'll quit using it because it's hard to use. But I want to try it anyway. There's questions about how are you going to keep this from bouncing like this when you're going down the crazy trails. That one's pretty easy. When this is not in use, these are going to be connected to this. There'll be a soft shackle in there. And then these will be tightened up. And it'll just hold there. This isn't going to be, I don't think I'm going to have this resting on the winch. Maybe if it's empty I will, but if I'm loaded, I'm going to have chains that go up there. There's going to be kickers. You'll see that here probably in the next video. There's going to be a kicker that goes from this point up to there for triangle strength that way. So it's starting to come along really good. Rory was talking about this. When he comes down really steep hills and has got something on the boom, it has a tendency to pick the boom up and push it up over frontwards, which would be a disaster because the vehicle would crash into the back of this. It would break these winches off, whatever. So I'm gonna have to have some sort of a system that keeps that from happening, whether it's chains or strap or something. But we just got to figure that all out. This is a custom vehicle for custom applications that's going to need custom solutions to custom problems. So I forgot to tell you, it's the UTV takeover happening right now at Sand Hollow, and PRP is here, and they have our sliders for our seats, so we're going to head out there and grab those, and we'll get those installed probably in the morning because it's getting late in the day. All right, so we are here at the UTV takeover. We're looking for the PRP booth. There's gonna be about 200 new trails at Sand Hollow.
Yes, thank you.
Whether you like it or not, I think we have
This
more
is your
fans
crowd.
that are
That's
UTVs
what I was just
Oh,
gonna
I'm
say.
fine.
Jeeps.
That's what I was gonna say.
Look at that one, I like that one. I don't know what there is about it, something.
Hey, you guys, stop right there.
Hey, do you have a seat? Are you
I
Justin?
do, I am. I'm
You got some
Justin.
seat brack?
Yeah, I have them here.
Justin.
Yeah, Justin, nice to meet you, Matt. Yeah, so C27 seat mount with slider and pair.
Awesome, that's
So
what we
it
need.
should be enough to work with.
All right, we're gonna head back to the shop now. All right, we are back from all that. And look who's back.
I'm back.
Forgot her name. Lizzie. I'm just kidding, I didn't forget her name. Lizzie, will you open this?
Yeah.
Okay, if you remember, I mean you should because it was only like just barely, for me it's been forever. But if you remember, we got the seat sliders. I'm gonna be figuring that out. We're gonna have Lizzie doing some welding on the frame. It's gonna be cosmetic welding. I know, I'm a diva when it comes to these rivets, but I want some rivets here. So this is all prepped, and Lizzie's gonna be welding those up while I look at these sliders and see if I can figure out what we're gonna be doing with them. Doing whatever we need to do. I don't even know. We're gonna be doing what we need to do to make them work and get the seats in. That's,
Should I pull these out?
yeah. Oh, they did come with instructions, dang it.
Looks like this is the base that they sit on.
All right, we're gonna show you this in time lapse because it's gonna be slow and boring. Sit in it, see how you're gonna have
Actually, not too bad.
to tilt that wheel back where it goes. How much legroom you got?
A lot. A good amount.
Question is that?
You've always had a lot? Let me check.
Most of the time.
Here, slide over.
The only place I don't have leg room is in the back seat of the MORR.
She's right, it's not that bad. This might be the right place. All right, so while we were working on that, the guys from Adams Drive Shaft, actually the guy from Adams Drive Shaft, James Adams.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I don't John, James and John. All right.
Yeah.
So these guys are going to help us figure out drive shafts.
Probably going to build the mount for the carry bearing on the inside of the skid shield back here.
Uh-huh.
Right above the, right to the, just to the inside of the Heims, transfer case side of the Heims. So we have a pivot point right there with another CV that'll kind of shoot straight back to here would be probably our best option.
Because you want to try it on the freeway at 65, right? At least you said. So we need to double CV it. So
Yeah,
we make sure it's smooth as glass.
We want it.
Yes.
We want it smooth as it can
Yeah,
be.
because the midship's going to be at an angle.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right.
No, we're golden.
All right. Awesome.
We should have this knocked out.
Since we're getting this ready, like I said, we got invited to SEMA. It was last minute. We're going to try to make this pretty with as much of the functional pieces as possible. So Adams, these guys came up. We're kind of putting them in a time crunch to get this done, but they're going to work with us.
Make it happen.
They're capable.
We'll make it
of
happen. We can
got
do it.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. We've got a plan. We've got Neil from Western Canadian Rockwell sending us some flanges. He's going to be air shipping those down. It's going to be crazy, and we'll show you what that looks like.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
So Matt has cut out these rivets just to match the rest of the wrecker, so I'm gonna weld those in.
All right, it is not tomorrow. It is still today. I've been out here working on the wrecker, just looking at things and getting some parts ordered for it so that we can get it ready for SEMA. So Rhett's out here with me too. Rhett, what are you working on?
Rugged radios.
Right. So a lot of you have been asking about radios. You said we should get some radios. So we did. We got these rugged radios, and we're going to be testing them out on a 3-day trip in the mountains. We are trying out these rugged radios. We've been on a 2-day trail ride, nothing but dirt roads. It has just been absolutely amazing. Look how beautiful it is out here. So we've got rugged radios between all the rigs and between each other. So Jamie and I can just communicate easily. Plus we can communicate with the rest of the group.
Our boys all have them on their helmets on the dirt bike, so we can keep track of them.
So we're thinking about getting these put in the Banana and the MORR and the rest of the rescue rigs and seeing if it can make us better at our job. But for right now, we're just gonna enjoy the rest of this trip and just keep testing these out. All right, that was a really fun trip. It was 3 days. We had 22 people, and we were able to stay in contact the whole time. It was crazy, but it would have been pandemonium without the radios.
So that's the nice thing about Rugged Radios. They make things for your razors, specialty kits. They make stuff for helmets like you saw us use and everything. So
here's the deal. I'm sold. We're going to be installing rugged radios in all of our equipment. So the MORR, the Banana, the Heavy Wrecker, they're all going to get them. We've got them here. We just got to get them installed. So these guys have been really great to work with. They answered all of our questions. The equipment works great. Fantastic, in fact. I mean, I've had some pretty expensive handhelds, but these ones we were covering really like miles and miles of clear communication. So pretty excited to get these installed in the cars. So if you would like a radio for your rig, you can go to ruggedradio.com, pick out what you like, and make sure you enter the code MORR, M-O-R-R, at checkout. That'll save you 10%. All right, it's been a productive week. We've worked on the steering column, we've worked on the boom, we've worked on the frame, we've worked on the interior. Oh, we even had Adams show up. They're engineering our drive shafts. I'm super excited to see how that turns out. So we've got this time crunch going on. We're trying to get this to SEMA. We got one more week to do it. Can we do it?
We can do it. Thanks for watching.
Oh,